Welcome to episode 27 of Star Wars Culture Live, a fairly new podcast focusing on Star Wars excitement and connection, your escape pod for hyperspace buzz and fandom fixes. As always, I am Ian, this is Marty, and this is where the fun begins. Instead of the negativity you often find on the Star Wars side of the internet, we are here to talk about the things we love about Star Wars, how it enriches our lives, the community, the culture, the fans, the media, anything at all. So as always, if you have anything for us, reactions, questions, requests, suggestions for future segments, throw them in the comments and we will see what we can do. Actually, that's what we're doing on this show is we are, this whole show, like the centerpiece of the show is responding to a comment that we got on last week's show. So see, we do it. We do it. And don't forget to check us out on all the socials. We are at SW Culture Live almost everywhere. Facebook is weird, but if you are following Star Wars stuff on Facebook, you might be aware of that already. But as usual, a few announcements. This is pre-recorded. This is a pre-recorded episode. So if you are, obviously you're not watching live because we're recording it and no one's watching, but this is not a live show, so it's going to be set up a little different. Obviously, there's no live comments to respond to or whatever. So that's why it seems a little different. But I'll get more into that a little bit later. But as usual, for now, we're going to start with quick fun facts about each host to help you get to know us a little bit better each episode. So, Marty, fun fact, take it away.
All right, so I've been perusing the internet quite a bit, and I think I picked up a little bit of a new hobby. You know how Black Series releases certain action figures and they don't release certain ones that you're hoping? Well,
Yes.
They don't have the action figure for the Stranger yet from Acolyte. They have everybody else but him. So I perused the internet, and there's a way to make a custom figure. And it said to take a Luke Skywalker that looks like this from Heir to the Empire. Do you get it?
Yeah. Hold on.
Yep.
Here, why don't I do this?
Okay, there we go. You can see right here, Heir to the Empire, Luke Skywalker. You can get him. I found this one on Macari for $7 plus shipping, so $14 total for everything. I'm gonna take it. And Ian, you can come back on. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to turn it into this.
Yes. So how are you going to make the this is tripping me out. Hold on. There we go. Now I'm on the right side. So how are you going to make the helmet?
So funny thing is, I like to browse Etsy.
Okay.
Somebody actually 3D prints the helmet, the gauntlet, and his lightsabers. It comes with the whole one, and then ones where he splits them into a lightsaber and Shido.
Wow, that's awesome.
But it's just the hilt, so I had to go to another shop on Etsy just to buy the blades. So a little bit of configuration. I'm not going to be completely done because I still got to buy something for his cape, his little cloak.
Yeah, to get a material that folds like that when it's that small you have to get a very specific type of thing.
There's some people that use 2 of the plastic like Mandalorian capes, one for front, one for back, and they just kind of place it together underneath the neckline.
Okay.
So that way it holds in place. Some people do that. That you could buy like regular cloak ponchos you can find on like Etsy or eBay. I found some for like $10. But there's also, I will get it later. He wears like the traditional like what looks like a Jedi robe up top, and then like the skirt underneath. I could have bought them when I bought the helmet and everything, but I was like, let me try the helmet and things for now before I go buy these. But I will probably, take documentation on this and whatnot. So I might have a video up, might not. At least pictures. We'll see.
Nice. That's awesome. It's funny, you're describing exactly the process by which I built my Mando costume. It's just like getting things from different vendors that you find and then just fitting them together the right way. So it looks like an awesome. That's cool. Definitely circle back when that's finished. I want to see it.
I sure will.
Viewers. My fun fact is that I am actually on the road for work for the next couple weeks. So I'm not quite at home, and so I am on my laptop. I don't have my whole setup, but as you can see, I am on a YT freighter in the background, and so this is where I have to do my podcasting from. So for these, just because of the way my schedule works when I'm on the road, these pre-recorded episodes are going to be a little shorter, a little bit more to the point. A little bit quicker, just so we can get through stuff and focus on the news and the discussion, and rather than all of the segments we usually do. But just a heads up about that. So yeah, with that, why don't we get into some news here? Let's see. Oh, I have to share that thing. All right, you can see that, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So first up, the news a little scattered. As always, we're going with the Star Wars Underworld Instagram page. That's where I like to get a lot of my Star Wars news. They're very quick and lots of good stuff up there. First up, The Empire Strikes Back is set to be screened during next month's TCM Classic Film Festival, and the maker himself, George Lucas, will be in attendance. So that's pretty awesome. In other movie or film news, a fan-made feature-length documentary titled Halcyon Days, which will reportedly chart the rise and fall of Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, is currently in production. Fan-made, currently in production. Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty. I'd check it out.
Yeah, I think I actually heard they're also doing Kickstarter if you want to get involved with it. I gotta find it.
Oh, nice. To help fund the project.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was I saw it somewhere, Facebook or Instagram, one of the two. Some other news source had that.
I keep glancing in the top of the StreamYard screen to see how many viewers we have. We have 0 because we're pre-recording this. There's no viewers.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, how do the people like this? We don't know. All right. Anyway, check that out on Kickstarter. The back cover of Star Wars, the Acolyte visual guide. Their little sneak peeks coming up. Tony Gilroy wearing a Narkina 5.
They also released a few pages as well.
What'd you say? A few pages? Yes,
that was weird.
I think.
Yeah, they released a few of the inserts as well, and okay. I can't wait to get this. I even commented on the SWU's Facebook page when they released the cover and then the first few pages of it. I was like, I have to have this.
Yes, do it. Yeah, it looks really cool. The toy Pterandoxes. Oh my god, Soul's lightsaber. I have that one, not with me because I didn't bring it. But Tony Gilroy, the director of Andor, wearing a Narkina 5 swim team t-shirt. That's pretty hilarious. I saw that t-shirt on some ads. A high quality version of the Mandalorian and Grogu logo has finally surfaced. So this will be the logo for that movie coming out in 2026. Is that May 2026, I think?
I think so.
Nice quote from Tony Gilroy here. I don't think I'll ever have a chance to work on anything as important as this. He's talking about Andor. This has been the most important thing I'll ever get to do in terms of how much imagination went into it, how much work went into it, how much of a better writer I became doing it, how much I learned doing it, and how important the subject matter was and the scale of it. It's hard to imagine that a situation like this would ever come around again. So that's a pretty nice, meaningful quote from him. I'm glad that he is enjoying the depth of this show as much as we are, because it is heavy and it is just chock full of substance and weight.
Yeah.
I think.
And I heard he wasn't a Star Wars fan though when he started this. He was like, I'm just doing it just to tell a story. Sure, it's set in Star Wars. I don't know anything about it. I just want to tell a story. Now I feel like he's kind of enveloped himself around into it to where he's like, I kind of like this. I'm gonna miss this this project. He's been doing it for like let's include Rogue One. What, about a decade now almost?
Yeah. Right. Oh my god. What an unusual way to become a Star Wars fan.
Seriously.
That's cool. What else? Just a couple more. Oh yeah, here's some of the pages that were released. The Noodle Shop. All these people. I don't even remember when these people popped up in the show. Was this the place where May and Dara got in the fight at the beginning?
I think so. I think some of these people are from that
The
scene.
bar. Okay, the Noodle Shop.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, that
Comic
one's
news.
new too. Yeah.
This one? Yeah, comic news. Dr. Aphra is set to team up with Luke Skywalker in a brand new comic called Star Wars Dr. Aphra Chaos Agent, debuting in June. Set after Return of the Jedi and written by Cherish Chen with art by Gabriel Guzman. That'll be fun. And then I think we're at the... Oh, last one here. Mandalorian Grogu will reportedly have a production budget of $166.4 million. Not a small project there, huh?
Not small, but it's the smallest that since Disney took over of any Star Wars project, movie-wise.
I did not know that. That's pretty crazy.
So from Force Awakens to Rise of Skywalker, including Rogue One and Solo, this is the cheapest project they've ever made.
I wonder what that
I'm going to say
means.
it might be due to the volume.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they made Andor, so this is less than Andor. Or sorry, Rogue One.
Yeah, so it's cheaper than Rogue One.
Okay. I wonder what that means, like, for the maybe just the location.
I think where they didn't have, I think so. Since with the Mandalorian, they probably shot it on the volume screen, so it saved them a lot of travel time.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe a few actual places they visited, but not as much as others.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope I don't notice.
I mean, you never noticed in the Mandalorian, so
I did not. You are completely correct. Yeah, that I remember them talking about that screen. That screen is crazy. That like 360-degree green screen, or I don't know, probably not 360, but like that whole set there. That's insane. I want a tour of that facility. Is what I want.
Same.
Yeah. All right. So I haven't been doing these banners, but that was our HoloNet news segment, and we're going to move on to our main meaty part of the episode here. Discussion: fandom expectations versus reality. This was brought up. We kind of brought up a little something last week about how the newer projects, especially the ones that deal with characters from older projects like the original trilogy or the prequels, things like the Book of Boba Fett or the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, that how they, when you include characters or when you center around characters that have been around for a while, it's impossible for people not to have like preconceived notions of those characters, and you'll automatically go into these new projects with expectations. And what happens, let me see if I can pull up the actual comment on Discord. It was, I, for one, would like to hear both of your thoughts on fan expectations when what we're given some then say they didn't tell me the story that I wanted. So I want to talk about those two shows that I mentioned, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett, and then I also want to talk about the sequels because that's a big place where this caused some. I'm just gonna generously say friction in the Star Wars fandom. So why don't we start with let's start with Book of Boba Fett because Boba Fett obviously appeared first in. Did he appear first in Empire Strikes Back or the Holiday Special? Holiday Special.
Holiday Special. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So he appeared in the Holiday Special, and then he appeared more in Empire Strikes Back in live action. And he wasn't a huge character, but people loved him, and rightfully so. He's awesome. And then, so if you are now hearing, and then he appears in The Mandalorian, those few episodes, and teams up. He wants his armor. He's tough. He just goes to town on these stormtroopers. And then he just kind of pieces out. He's like, I like those funny memes of like, there's an X-Wing, Luke Skywalker. All right, I'm out. Bye. And I like those memes about that. But so then we find out that they're making a show about the Book of Boba Fett. What do you think expectations maybe were? What do you think is valid or rightfully disappointing, or I don't know. What are your fandom expectations versus reality? Your thoughts on Book of Boba Fett? Go.
Okay, I think people's expectations is what he was supposed to be like in Legends, where he didn't talk a whole lot. He didn't stand around a whole lot. He was a man of action. He was all about guns ablaze, and he even came back from the Sarlacc pit in Legends to have some more kick-ass adventures.
Okay.
But so Disney took over, changed things up. He was still pretty solid as what people expected I would say in the 2015 comic book runs. But Book of Boba Fett came around. He didn't do a whole lot of action. He gave it to Fennec Shand. He gave it to Chrysanthemum. His other people, he didn't do a whole lot. He did a lot more talking, had his helmet off a whole lot more. That was one thing I think a lot of people complained about because you know Boba Fett more with his helmet on.
It's true, but that's kind of the most iconic symbol of Boba Fett is that helmet, that shape.
But so the people get all this crazy ideas of like, ooh, they could do this story, they could do that story. But what they also forget is like that's all Legends. So they got to come up with something different. What better way than to, give it to somebody who they say is a Boba Fett fan, such as Robert Rodriguez, and see what he could do with it. I think he actually did a decent job with it. I'm not going to diss it, really. I mean, there's some parts I would say could have been better. Like any other show, any other movie, things could have been better, but I'm not going to diss it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't, I guess it really had to be with the fact that I didn't read a whole lot of Boba Fett in Legends, so I wasn't holding a higher expectation than other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it was a little more Disney-fied than like the first season of The Mandalorian, for example. That was very dark Western. It was a little tougher. I'm thinking especially of the finale with the mods. Some of those scenes, I thought, I am just concerned with whether or not you can sell it to me. And that whole scene where they were like pinned down and they were in the city fighting, and like their speeder bikes were going slower than like a normal bicycle in the city, and like they weren't getting hit. And I just thought I was like, all right, that didn't sell it for me. So there were some moments like that where I could predict a little bit the escalation of events, like, oh, this person shows up, then this person shows up, then this person shows, like, oh, the ranker's coming. Like, I don't know, that predictable isn't always a bad thing. But I think in general, I have heard those criticisms too. Like he did too much talking. He was more, uh, he was less about the action. He wasn't like this kick-ass warrior that we thought before. But I think, like you said, that's all legends. It doesn't have to be canon if they don't want to make it canon. And so this Boba Fett is entering a different era of his life. Instead of being the one on the ground, the boots on the ground, he's trying to build something more for the people of Mos Espa and for himself. He's trying to build a different role for himself. He is older. He is slower. He is dad bod-er. He is
Yeah.
like it's a different thing. He has to go into the back of the tank every 5 minutes because of like he was stuck in the Sarlacc for a long time. And they in my opinion, they sold that to me. They like I am getting older. I am getting slower. I am getting fatter. It's a thing that happens to people, and why wouldn't it happen to Boba Fett? And they
Right.
sold all of that to me. The decisions that he made as kind of a leader, they made sense. Like he wanted to walk around town. They were like, "Why didn't he jetpack away? He didn't have his helmet on. That's how you control the jetpack without." But he did rely on people to rescue him because he wasn't this. He's not as Mando-ish as Mando. He's not that full in his prime resourceful fighter that he was before. He's older and in a different role for himself now. And they, in my opinion, they sold that storyline to me. That character arc.
Yeah.
In the interest, sorry. Any last comments, and then we'll move on to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I feel like if they had a season 2 lined up, I feel like maybe they would have listened to a little bit of the criticism and probably went a little bit of a different direction, maybe giving him a little bit more of an action role. But I'm not really here for that. Like, sure, it's called Book of Boba Fett, but it's a book. It's got stories. It's got, plots A, B, and C. So let him do his main big boss thing. Let the other characters have fun with taking down the bad guys or whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it. No criticism here.
They had him take down a freaking sand monster with his bare hands. Like he didn't not do action. There were action scenes. Like he fought Cad Bane. Like he didn't go in and take on like a whole platoon of anything. Like I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're on the same page about this. Let's move on to Obi-Wan. Yeah, what so same deal. You watch the prequels, you watch Clone Wars, you see Ewan McGregor back, you see him on Tatooine, disconnected from the Force. What were you first expecting, and what shook out there? Same question.
What I was expecting was kind of that. I was expecting a Obi-Wan that's broken because he lost everything. He lost the Jedi Order. He lost his brother. He's got nothing. So I expected him to be broken down and lost. I wasn't expecting all the Inquisitor action though that was around.
You weren't expecting that?
Kind of like I wasn't expecting. I was not expecting Inquisitors like as much as there were, or going to the Inquisitorius. I was not expecting that.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like again with Book of Boba Fett, you take this. It's gonna be like this with everything. Like you take a legacy character that everyone knows and loves, especially when it comes to the Legends material. People were expecting it to be like the John Jackson Miller novel Obi-Wan Kenobi. Actually, no, I think it was just called Kenobi. I think he did a lot more action in that than what people than what we saw in the Obi-Wan show. So they were
Yeah.
making comparisons and saying he didn't do a whole lot. I think he did a whole lot for what he could to try to, reconnect himself with the Force while trying to save a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah. I agree. So I have to separate. Here's the thing that you have to do as a fan. You have to separate your preferences from what is valid and what is not valid. So I hate those arcs where the hero loses his powers. I hate it like when the Hulk can't transform into the Hulk, when he the Hulk won't come out in Avengers Infinity War or whatever. I hate when the Hulk won't come out and he doesn't have his powers. I hate that. When Wolverine gets stripped of his healing ability, I hate that. When in Batman, in the Dark Knight Rises, when you see Christian Bale's Batman and he's like old and broken and retired and like he has to, I hate that. I just hate when the hero doesn't have his powers. So seeing Obi-Wan disconnected from the Force, all slow and like a hermit and just unable to do the Obi-Wan thing, that I, as a fan, did not. I as a watcher, Ian, I didn't like it. But that doesn't mean it's not a valid choice. It's just that I don't like that part of the show. That's not my favorite part of the show. If he can connect again and start doing his badass things, and that's the part of the adventure that I like the best. But just because I didn't like it, and that like I don't like that type of story arc, doesn't mean it's not a valid choice. It doesn't mean that it's not a good show or a good decision. You just have to separate yourself from what you like or possibly what you expect. Like, just because we know roughly what Obi-Wan does, like in general, we know he's on Tatooine watching we don't know every part. So like the parts that we like something we make up in our head that we expect to see, just because it's not there, it's not their fault. They're not. Everybody has different expectations. What are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah, and so you got to separate yourself with everything. Is like you got to go more open-minded than anything. Like, you can't just say, I'm expecting this, I'm demanding this. You got to be like, okay, so this is what I want. Will I be upset if they don't do what I want? Now, that's a different story. Some people will be like, well, that didn't happen, but I see why. And then you got all those other people who are like, this is not what I wanted. Why did you do this to me?
That's unforgivable. Why didn't Admiral Akbar have a huge role? We like Admiral Akbar for no reason. He doesn't deserve. Why does he just deserve this huge role in the sequel trilogy? Like, why would he still be around?
Yeah, we just liked it because of his meme. Like, that's it.
He's a meme. He wasn't like this badass general or anything. He was great. I'm sure he acted honorably and did his duty, and it's great. But you don't need to just make him a main character because he was a meme. That's not.
They try to make you like him a little bit more in the Clone Wars in season 4. The whole first 4 episodes, he was captain of Mon Cala.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But other than that, that's all you get of Akbar.
That whole thing where lightsabers work underwater, I was like, oh, okay. Explain that to me. Explain that technology to me. But all right. So last but not least, let's go to the sequel trilogy, because this one I find the most interesting. Because I'm just going to look at Force Awakens here. Okay, sorry, I had like 6 thoughts and I didn't articulate any of them. For this discussion, I just want to talk about Force Awakens, because there's all kinds of expectations and things that we can get into with Rian Johnson and Episode 8, and then wrapping it all up with Rise of Skywalker. Later on. But for today, expectations. There's a new Star Wars trilogy coming out. Force Awakens comes out, and I heard complaints on both ends of the spectrum. I heard complaints that said, this is nothing like the original Star Wars that I know and love. And then I heard complaints that also said, this was way too similar to the original trilogy that I know and love. How can it be both? How can it be both?
Seriously,
Sorry,
I don't understand that. I guess in some ways it's like, let's go with The Force Awakens, since that's what we're talking about. It did feel like A New Hope, just because it's the start of a new, character's journey, like a hero's journey. It starts out, they got to be a nobody to become a hero in a lot of these journeys. Sure, it took the liberty of putting them on a desert planet that gets wrapped up into this war.
They have to escape.
I feel like that's what
the desert planet because the Empire or First Order is hunting them.
And I feel like at the same time mark, you'll meet Han Solo, almost the same exact time mark.
Yeah.
But other than that, it kind of had its journey on its own. Like, it's different.
Well, it still followed the big major plot point of, they found out that there's a big planet got destroyed. We didn't know that they had that technology to destroy multiple planets at once. It turns out there's this big, massive weapon that we have to destroy by flying through a very tough tricky little trench. But before that, we have to send a scouting party inside, not to turn off a tractor beam, but to
lower the defenses. Yeah.
So the skeleton of the plot is very similar, and that is the only criticism that I can give an inch to is that the overall plot does kind of mirror the thing, the A New Hope, but there's just so much that's different that there's not. It's not.
And I think that's where the opposite part comes in. It's like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels more science fiction action than previous Star Wars. Like, sure, it was directed by J.J. Abrams, who did the biggest blockbuster of Star Trek. Yeah, that really was a science fiction movie there. A lot of action, a lot of science words and things like that they've used in that movie. But I think maybe it's just because it had a different lens put on it, a different director. They're just like, we're just going to associate JJ with Star Trek and say it's more of a sci-fi kind of action movie than what George's. Let's learn more about the Force and, things like that. You didn't really learn a whole lot about the Force in the original movie. A little bit at the beginning, like
it's mentioned a little.
Yeah. Just mentioned a little bit, but then it's back to the action of everything's at the Death Star.
Yeah.
And I had a point, another thing to talk about this movie. But now I can't remember it.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was gonna say, oh my god, it happened to me too. We can edit this part out. With J.J. Abrams, I didn't think it looked Star Trek-y. Star Trek, his Star Trek movies, did he direct more than one or just one?
He directed 3 of them, I think. If not, he directed the first one and then produced the other 2.
I don't think maybe you can tell that they might have been directed by the same person visually, but I did not think that The Force Awakens mirrored Star Trek in that directorial production way. I didn't see them as the same. That Star Trek, there were many more colors. There were it just, I don't know. They went more toward the Star Wars way of like everything is technologically advanced, but also like decrepit and dirty looking. You know, they nailed that perfectly. They did live action people in costumes for the pub scene, the cantina scene that Maz's I think Takadana is the name of the planet.
Yeah.
And that was a huge step in the right direction. Instead of the CGI prequel stuff, they took it back like old school with costumes and puppets and all kinds of stuff. That was awesome. But about the world like this, here's the problem I have with the statement that doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. Star Wars doesn't just have one feel. The breadth of like Star Wars has spanned almost 50 years now. And so it has feels of 70s and 80s. It has feels of late 90s, early 2000s when CGI was exciting to everybody. It has feels of the 2010s. So just visually and production wise, it has those different feels. But the different types of media, Clone Wars doesn't feel like the original trilogy. Andor doesn't feel like The Mandalorian. There's no one Star Wars feel. So when someone has a criticism that they're trying to present as valid and saying this doesn't feel like Star Wars, I don't think that that's a sentence that makes sense. Because it could feel like this Star Wars.
Yeah.
Young Jedi Adventures in Star Wars now. Like that's a thing.
Yeah. I think I said it on a previous episode of ours where it's like Star Wars is a sandbox. Everyone can play in it, and everyone's got a different story to tell. Like, it doesn't have to all be the same consistent thing. Like, I don't expect Robert Rodriguez to make a George Lucas Star Wars. I expected him to actually make something more extravagant. He actually toned it down, which is interesting. I don't expect Jon Favreau to make a Mandalorian like Iron Man. I mean, which he didn't. So, like, everyone's got their own different, right? A lot of metal plot armor.
Yep. Not enough though.
Not enough.
Oh, poor Iron Man.
But yeah, so everyone's got their own stories they want to tell using George's sandbox.
I don't expect anyone to make a Star Wars that feels like Tony Gilroy's.
No one will. Because that's the story he wants to tell. Someone could try to copy that, but it's not going to be the same, not going to be up to par. I mean, it'll be its own thing.
Yeah. That is a good segue to an outro to the show, which is it's 1 month away to the season 2 of Andor. So I will be home, I think, by that point. Isn't it? So we will be back to normal recapping episodes and things on our live streams by then. But for now, we are at 40 minutes in our 20-minute show. So we're gonna head out. We hope you enjoy what we're doing here. Sorry, the format is a little bit different. We know Star Wars fandom and comment sections can sometimes get dark and toxic, but it doesn't have to be that way. We are trying to bring fun and positivity to the Star Wars side of the internet. Remember, there are more of us. So, again, if you have any questions or anything for us, requests, suggestions for segments, anything at all, throw them in the comments and we will see what we can do. Don't forget to follow us at SW Culture everywhere. Follow me at Nerdiest Stepdad everywhere. Follow Marty at Marty21794 on Instagram and a few other places. Might be Marty Ingleston III, some places. But make sure to follow our show, follow us, and check in next week for another video. Wow, so close. Check in next week for another video celebrating the best of Star Wars culture. May the Force be with you.